Oh dear, they went to Australia in the finish. Funny, isn't it? They had to go to Australia. But it really was. You could put him and Rolf Harris alongside. He'd have a job to tell the difference.
Really?
So anyway, right, back to where we are. Graham Jones at Littleton, and then Janet at Burnham. Now, I was secretary then. I'd taken over from Chris Nielsen. So I went down to Burnham and interviewed
warm enough? Do you want the door closed or not?
Sorry?
Are you warm enough?
Are you chilly, are you?
No, I'm just worried about you.
I'm all right at the moment, you know.
Okay.
So I'd gone down and interviewed been interviewed by the committee at the Burnham, the Royal Corinth, and I was introduced to a chap that we were given the date, and then the chap came in who offered to do the OD duty for the week for us, and runner, and he was a retired army brigadier. And he had this little military moustache like that. Anyway, we picked an absolute beast of a week. It was that windy.
Yeah.
And on one day he called us all in for the briefing, and he said, "Do you really want to go out in this?" It was howling, you know. We went out, but I think that was the finest event that Janet ever sailed. She did very well to win it that year.
What, in heavy weather? She could cope with it.
Yeah, she was a good heavy weather sailor. She used to race a solo as well. I'm sure she did some successful races in Holland in the solo as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, right, where do we go after Burnham?
Dover Harbour was Zig, Hickling 67.
Sorry?
Hickling?
What was after Burnham? What venue?
Dover Harbour.
Back to Dover again.
Yeah. And 66.
And who won that?
M. Young 351.
Yeah, Mike Young, that's right. Yeah, he won in Zig that year. Don't remember too much about that. I'm not even sure that I went. I must have gone. Yes, I did go because I remember getting a very, very great impression of the Royal Cinque Ports Yacht Club.
Yeah.
Because it was divided into two sections, and the cruising section for all the yachties was upstairs, and the dinghy people had the downstairs part, which was very useful because they had a basement in this lovely old Georgian house right on the front at Dover.
Yeah.
And I remember that down in the basement they had these huge great boilers, and after you finished racing you could lay your wet clothes on top of the boiler and they'd be nice and dry in the morning. But we did go upstairs a couple of times, and the staircase was very, very wide and flowing, beautiful up the first, and then it turned round and went up another. But as you went up the first floor, there was a wall there, and there's this, it's probably still there, this most magnificent portrait painting of Winston.
Really?
Because you see, he was one of the wardens of the
Cinque
Ports,
yeah.
you see.
Yeah.
So that was Dover, so that was that one. What was after Dover?
Hickling.
Hickling. Ah, now Hickling. Right. Yeah, I can remember that one quite well because I've become fairly friendly with a chap from the North Herts and Bed Sailing Club. I used to sail on what we used to call the Blue Lagoon at Arlesey. And it's not far away from Cardington, where they used to keep the big, the huge great balloons there at Cardington, and these immense great hangars.
Yeah.
Airships, airships.
Airships.
And I'd gone there for a Christmas event, and I remember when it went in the Christmas event in I believe it was probably been in Catkin. Not sure if I'd got John's boat by then. Might have been that year or the following year I got it. Anyway, I won the Christmas thingamajig, and it was a pumpkin and a bottle of scotch. So I went home with these, and Joyce tried cooking this pumpkin. Oh, a shocking mess. Anybody can ever eat anything like that is beyond me.
Yeah.
But at that time I met this chap. He was an Enterprise sailor, and his name was Nigel Blake. Now he expressed interest in moths, and he persuaded me to let him borrow a moth, and it was called white moth, and I'm pretty sure it was number 381.
380.
380, white moth. Now that number 380 is a bit like the building of the boat. Is a little bit like the half a dozen that was built at Bottoms. They didn't build any more than that few at Bottoms, because the river had come up in flood, and the floods had damaged the frame, so there were never any more built the same as Twit. 392 I came in possession of years later, which was a good boat. And I actually, at that time, I was running a sailing school, and I taught Jeff Love, the orchestra leader, to sail, and he bought number 392 from me.
All right.
And he sailed that for quite a while. I think he took it to Spain, to his house down in Tarragona.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this white moth was built by Brian Rockall. Strange name, isn't it? Brian Rockall.
Yeah.
Littlehampton Arran Yacht Club. He built 6 moths.
Yeah.
And they were very light, and they were very distinctive, because the front deck from the start of the bulkhead to the bow was more or less 3 straight sheets of plywood with no bend in them. So they went down at an angle towards the bow, tapering off. And that. But they were very, very light. In fact, my middle son Geoffrey had number 382 later on, I think. Anyway, so this boat was sailed by Brian Rockall, and I got very friendly with him because he was like a jobbing builder from Littlehampton. But he got a little 19-foot yacht called a Meteor sloop. It was a Finkill boat. And when the tide went out, he had these wooden legs, and as the boat started to settle in the bottom, you could heel it one way and put one leg on and bolt it from the inside with wing nuts, and then heel it the other way and bolt the other leg, and you just stay upright. And Brian invited me to go with them over to Le Havre for a trip. So, you know, he used to do a few open meetings, so we got pretty friendly, and I was always keen to, you know, get a little bit further afield. So we set off from Littlehampton, just on, I think, the middle of the ebb, something like that. And he had his wife Nora with him.
Yeah.
And it was a northerly wind, and the boat was on a dead run, heading straight for Le Havre. And when we'd been out about an hour, of course, being offshore, with offshore wind, the waves are gradually getting bigger and bigger. And both Brian and Nora fell terribly sick and just disappeared down the cabin. As last I saw for them till the first thing in the morning. Yeah. So I was helming that boat all the way to France on my own. And we had no